By the way, GAN usually names their cubes like this, so I was surprised when it wasn't a small 1x1. The GAN 11M Pro is $65. It only comes in stickerless along with primary or black internal plastic. This cube is very fast and light, which usually is a double-edged sword because it does mean the power is on you to turn as fast as you want, but any turning force you put into what ends up being a mistake can just get amplified. But what's really good about the GAN 11M Pro is it doesn't seem to have that problem with control. And that's thanks to a new feature, which is core magnets. Most speed cubes nowadays come with magnets inside the edges and corners so they attract each other, and that helps you to align your turning better. This cube also has magnets that interact between the core and the corner, and I don't know why this particular magnet placement makes a difference, but it does help me control the cube much better. This is the first time that I've really liked a cube so fast and light, because usually I have trouble controlling something like this, but with the GAN 11M Pro it works really well. This cube also comes with lots of ways it can be customized, and I'll go into that in a moment. I want to briefly mention these two cubes. The GAN 11M Pro was originally supposed to also come in soft and UV coated. The official word for now is GAN has stopped production on those cubes because there were too many defects, but I managed to get my hands on one of each, so let's review it. This is the soft plastic, which feels sort of matte. I've described it as the rubber part of a pencil, but not as much friction. In fact, way less friction than any other surface. Now, I was really curious about whether or not this would stay, and over time I have found that the friction has gone up. I'm curious though, if you use this for a lot longer, what would happen? Because one thing I've already noticed is on the logo, there's already some damage. You can see right here, that's not discoloration, that's actually a piece of something has come up. For the sake of everybody else who may get a soft cube in the future, I'm actually going to peel at this and see what happens. Oh, that felt so bad to do, but I had to know. This apparently is a covering that only affects the logo, and now the logo is actually, it dips in a little bit compared to the outside. So if I like run my nail across the blue, it stops at the white because the white is elevated. No matter how hard I scratch at the white, nothing came off. The surface they've made everything out of, including the outside of this center, seems fine. I haven't run into this problem anywhere else, so I think the surface should be okay. Now this one is called UV coated, which was always a bit mysterious to me, but look how shiny that is. This kind of reminds me of Speedcube Shop's PVC coated cubes, which gives sort of like a high friction, almost sticky surface. The reason why I like that is explained in the video about it. I got this most recently, so I've actually used it the least, but I think this is the one I may like the most. So again, the soft and UV coated are not available right now, but in the future GAN may make more cubes that have these. We'll just have to wait and see. For now, the only options you have are frosted primary internals and black internals. Is there any feelable difference between the internal plastic color? Maybe, but I haven't noticed a big enough difference that I would pick one over the other just for that. I just think black looks better, and that's why I like it more. Alright, now let's take a look at everything in the accessory box. There's a guide on how to solve a 3x3. I don't know why you'd buy the cube and still need this. There's a nice drawstring bag to protect my $65 investment. There's this box of special accessories, including magnets and this thing, which I will talk about soon. And there's a little screwdriver and a guide on how to use all of it. I hope you can read Chinese. Just kidding, there's English. I've done this exact joke like 3 times already. I'm just gonna show you how everything works on the cube. This is on every corner, and underneath it says 1, 2, 3. The middle is 2 or medium magnet strength. If you move it to 1, this is the weak magnet strength, and moving it to 3 is strong magnets. With 1, it can get a little unstable. I think 2 is just enough where the cube really holds together well as you do the algorithms. You don't feel a very strong magnet as you go through the alignment. I don't think the click you get as you get to each layer is really the most important part. I think the best part about magnets in cubes is as you're turning, it keeps the stuff you're not touching perfectly aligned. So to have a stable cube, 2 works really well. 3 can work, but it's stronger than I think is necessary. Now, if you go under the center cap, there are core settings. The blue thing has 3 options. There's 1, 3, and remove. I can push down and change it so that either the top or bottom is pointing at something new. Now it's 3. You can think about the numbers as how much room the pieces have to move. I've set this to 3, everything else is 1, so there's more room to move on the white side, so you can see it pulls apart further. With a higher number, there is more room to move, which means things like it'll feel looser, corner twist will be easier, and it may overall be faster and harder to control. If you remove this, you can swap it out for the dark blue, which includes settings 2 and 4. My personal favorite is 1, as I don't like when cubes feel super loose. There's also the clear plastic around the blue thing, which you also can adjust by using the tool that comes in the accessory box. You can turn counterclockwise. As you turn counterclockwise, the clear part gets lower and lower until it snaps right back to the top. The higher up this is, the weaker the springs will be, and as you turn clockwise, the springs get stronger. Now what do the springs do? They prevent you from pulling the cube apart. For the clear setting, the one I like is snap to the top and then go 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can think about the blue thing as controlling how much distance you have to move, but the clear part controls how easy or difficult it is to do that pull apart. Now this is where it can start to get confusing on how this actually works and what each setting affects, but here is the really simple version of how this works. For the blue, the high numbers make the cube feel loose, and for the clear, the plastic being higher makes it feel loose. You want to use the blue setting to roughly find what works for you, and then use the clear setting to do minor adjustments within that. Now of course it's not this simple, the blue and clear settings actually do different things in the cube. But if you've never tried this sort of system before, then this is how you want to think about it to get started. Now there is one more thing you can change, and I have some mixed feelings about this one, but how you get to this is you have to disassemble the cube first, get to a corner piece. Well, you're gonna have to get to all the corner pieces, but I'll show you on one. At the bottom of the corner piece, there is a magnet. How you can remove this is by turning counterclockwise and it just comes out. Notice how this was a triangle shape. There's actually in the accessory box a hexagon shape as well. Now I can just put this one in here and turn it clockwise to get it to lock in. When a corner sits inside the cube, it would interact with the core magnet like that. I found that this cube is quite fast and sort of loose feeling, but it also stays together really well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds situation, and I think it's because of these magnets. Changing the magnets is like not really worth it. I would say just leave this the way they are because the hexagonal magnets feel almost exactly the same. I cannot tell a difference at all. And you can just have a magnetless corner if you want, but I don't recommend this as it's kind of like putting the corner magnet strength here on 1. I think it's just too weak for the cube to work well. Now with these magnets, there is a downside. It can be very tiring to do slice moves. That's because with magnets on both sides, it affects the middle layer more than it does with the outer layers. So you can get stuff happening like this. Go down a little bit, pull apart, and it just snaps back into place. That's how strong the magnets are on setting 2. Now I did mention in the beginning that usually I don't like my cubes being too fast, but I think with the GAN 11M Pro, if you want to play to its strengths, you do want it to be fast. The core magnets really help to stabilize the cube, and I make fewer mistakes on this than any other fast cube. Usually with a cube this fast and light, I have a lot of trouble controlling it and I try to slow it down. But if you have this cube, I really recommend giving it a shot at being somewhat fast, even if that's not what you're usually used to, because in terms of balancing the cube's speed with control, I think this cube does it really well. So is the GAN 11M Pro worth $65? Well, for how long it's been that I didn't like cubes that were super fast and light, the fact that the GAN 11M Pro could change my mind on that really shows that this cube actually is different from the rest. But if you're absolutely sure you want a slower and easier to control cube, then I don't think this one is going to be any special. You can still do it, but other cubes can do it too, and they are cheaper. This cube is really great, but with that being said, the real difference it has compared to other flagship cubes, I think that really comes out once you're turning very fast and using harder finger tricks where the cube becomes harder to stabilize and the core magnets really help. But if you're at an earlier stage in cubing where you're not turning that fast yet, then I don't think this cube is really necessary at all. Something like the MGC Elite would already be great as it gives you a lot of ways to customize it, it's quite cheap, and you can find out what kinds of things you like in a cube. Or if the price and all this setup is very overwhelming, then you can instead get the RS3M 2020 J-Perm edition. I will more formally announce this in a separate video, but it's there, you can get it, it's cheap, and it's set up for you. Now, I do want to mention that if you love the feel of the GAN 11M Pro, it does have quite a unique, smooth-ish feel, but also feels sort of soft. But if you like that feel and you want a cheap version of it, then you can get the Guhong version 4. Now, I think the Guhong version 4 is good. I don't like it that much, but just the feel of the turns, I can't deny it is very similar to the GAN 11M Pro. It's just the performance I don't think is quite as good. Now, if you still think the GAN 11M Pro is not worth $65, and in fact you think nothing here is worth its price, that's okay. Go to Speedcube Shop, use the discount code JPerm, and everything is cheaper. You're welcome. Alright, that's about it, and by the way, I really hope GAN in the future makes more of the soft and UV coated cubes because I think that is something people will really like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.